Welcome in, everyone, to HogvilleNET YouTube Live in-game. I've never done any part of any game in-game. We're going to, I guess, do some of this now, especially with Arkansas season kind of teetering on, looking at needing 5 wins in 5 days in the SEC tournament in a few weeks to get an automatic bid, or excuse me, an at-large bid. Arkansas is playing well today. A 12.5 dog at point dog at minimum coming in against Mississippi State. Right now, the Razorbacks are tied up 48 all. Just under 10 minutes ago, 9:54. This is a game where you looked at Mississippi State coming into it, a superior offensive rebounding team. We're seeing that play out. 13-3 on the offensive glass, but this is not a good free throw shooting team. And only 10 of 17 at the line, where the Hogs are 5 of 6. So Arkansas only -5 in makes and -11 in attempts there. This is a game where Arkansas did not defend very well in the paint early on, 8 of 10 from the field early. For Mississippi State, Arkansas's got possession right now. As the Bulldogs took an 8-point lead, Arkansas got within 5. Actually tied the game on a Tremont Mark three-pointer. Got within 5 at halftime. Was within 5 at halftime. And it's really been a back and forth second half. Arkansas took a brief lead on a Makai Mitchell bucket. Makai's playing really physical, trying to match some of that physicality around the basket. Things got chippy a few minutes ago. The Hogs could take the lead again here after a defensive stop, 9:31 left. Again, game's tied at 48 all. Khalif Battle, who's having a nice game, got the start today. Arkansas, we know, is playing without Jalen Graham, along with Trevor Brazil for the 6th consecutive game there. Battle just missed the first free throw. So 9:31 left. Arkansas is tied right now on the road. This would be a quad one win. This is a Mississippi State team, despite its record 16-8, 5-6, has won 2 in a row, trying to make it 3 in a row here at home. It's not an offensively skilled team. You see that, not a good free throw shooting team. Arkansas is finding ways to stay in this game. Thought Arkansas settled for too many first half threes, doing a much better job in the second half of attacking. You've got to attack aggressive teams. What Arkansas did fairly well in the first half against Tennessee, although most of the damage was from the three-point line. Early in that game, Hubbard just missed a 3. That guy's hit 2 critical ones here. Another offensive rebound foul by the Razorbacks. So Arkansas is getting dominated on this offensive glass here. The Hogs are going to have to probably do a little bit better than giving up second and third opportunities to Mississippi State. Now, when you foul the Bulldogs, now it's a matter of how many fouls are your guys picking up, who's going to foul out, versus how many free throws can this team convert. Missed first free throw, so Arkansas holding that 1-point lead with 9:06 left. Interesting game. Again, matchups. The physicality obviously favors Mississippi State. The problem is when you go to the foul line and shoot this poorly, now 11 of 19, Arkansas only 6 attempts in this game. Well, now 8 attempts, but the Hogs are 6 of 8, so 75%, much better percentage than the 11 of 19 for Mississippi State. And we're tied at 49 all as the Bulldogs split the pair. But it's a very interesting game because I think Arkansas has done a much better job defending around the basket, making things harder for Mississippi State on its initial shot. Both teams, nice driving kick by Ellis to Battle. He misses a 3. And Mississippi State, let's see if they try to finish in transition. Hubbard all the way, and he lays it up off the glass, high off the glass. Transition opportunity. Arkansas did not get back. And even though 3 defenders were backpedaling, nobody stopped the ball. No one stepped up to stop that drive and force a kick out. So Hubbard gets, to the basket. Battle just penetrated the lane again. Kick out to Devo. He's driving. Kick out to Davenport. He's not shot the ball or shot it poorly when he has attempted it. Devo with a pull-up 16-footer. Hits the rim a couple of times. Davenport with a putback. So Davenport goes to the glass. This is where Arkansas has been destroyed in this game. Arkansas just got an offensive rebound and a putback. We're tied 51 all. So if you're watching the game, thank you for joining me. We haven't done this. You look at Arkansas effectively playing a zone. It's man-to-man, but guys are giving a lot of space to Mississippi State offensive players on the perimeter, on the wings, because it's a team you want to shoot the ball. And then they collapse and fill the gaps on drives. Another deep 3 by Hubbard. Arkansas, again, doing a good job of not letting Mississippi State get to the basket on its initial drive. Really, after the early going, most of this game where Mississippi State's, doing work is on the offensive glass off the first miss. But Arkansas is forcing a lot of perimeter 3-point shot in and good for Mississippi State. I think they took 2 or 3 threes on that possession. So once again, the offensive glass hurting Arkansas, made 3-pointer. Not a lot for Mississippi State. I think that's their third make from distance. They haven't shot as many as Arkansas, but lately they've had to up the 3-point. Ellis just took a 3, no good. Davenport back on the offensive glass. Second consecutive possession. Someone's got to do that. Someone's got to do that for Arkansas because it's what the Bulldogs are doing. I have done it throughout this game. Arkansas, again, was -10 when we came on the glass, on the offensive glass. The margin's probably about the same, but the last 2 offensive possessions, it's been Davenport going, getting there, put back on the last possession, got fouled on this one, and we'll see if he's able to. I guess we're going to the media timeout. All right, so we're at another media timeout. This has, again, been an interesting game simply because I think the Razorbacks have done a good job of grinding. You wondered after another blowout loss, 20-plus points for the 5th time in league play. That had never happened, but it did. That the 5th time against Tennessee. If Arkansas loses today, if Arkansas loses on the road today, the Razorbacks will be underwater at 12-13. That'll be the first time in year 500 months that at any point in the season, Arkansas is underwater on an overall record. We know they're underwater in league play. At 3-8, Arkansas, if it loses, will be 3-9, and then with 6 games to go, only 1 loss away, the Razorbacks will be from locking up a second consecutive season of a losing record in league play. You're looking at several bad. I mean, there's already a lot of bad markers, a lot of historical losses. Arkansas's got to find a way to start winning games. If Arkansas were to win this game again, Mississippi State 35 in net. It's a quad 1 win. Arkansas would be 2-7. People say, "Why bring that up now?" Well, because they're playing the games, and so we'll talk about what it means, win or lose. But this is a quad 1 opportunity for Arkansas, win or lose, and it would be a quad 3 loss for Mississippi State, fighting for its postseason life. So both, Mississippi State's got a lot more at stake for postseason. Arkansas is trying to keep its season from being a complete debacle and a complete wipeout. Conceivably, if you win today, not only do you pick up that second quad 1 win of the season, you poke your head again above 500 in that overall record. You say, well, what does that matter? Well, Arkansas with 6 games to go, 3 at home, would need to win only 3 more games, split those to make sure it finishes the regular season a game above 500. And you've got Missouri, Vanderbilt, and LSU at home. I think all of those are winnable games. On the road, not as easy. Next week, you're on the road after this game midweek at A&M. Then you'll be at Kentucky later and Alabama. So it would at least give Arkansas a chance to stay above water overall, a win today, because you're going to have to get a road win somewhere to do that. This looks like Arkansas's best opportunity. It'd also be Arkansas's second road win of the season. We know Arkansas was able to go to the worst team in the league, probably, in Missouri and pick up a 7-point road win a few weeks ago. And if Arkansas won today, would have won 3 of their last 5 games. You say, well, what does that matter? Well, the team started 1-6. That matched the worst start through 7 games in league play to that Pelfrey team in 08-09. So that team finished 2-14. This one's better than that already. But after a 1-6 start, winning 3 of your last 5 shows some progress and some proof that you didn't have a complete collapse in your program. There's been a lot of stuff on the court, off the court. Jalen Graham misses another game. He hadn't missed in a while. We know early in the year he was dealing with back spasms. This is a shoulder issue, reportedly, and so we'll see. How long he's out. People may throw up, say, "Well, what does it matter at this point?" Well, I mean, again, if Arkansas can get on any kind of a run here late in the season, it's better than the alternative. And you would like all hands on deck. In a physical game, this kind of front line, I don't know how much Graham helps Arkansas. Makai's had some Mitchell around the basket, but he's had to play with physicality to have that. JD at the line. Davenport hit the first free throw here. 6:55 to go. Hogs down 2. We'll see if Davenport hits the second. But again, this is a scrappy Arkansas team today, coming off, a double-digit dog in this coming in. Most of the services had at 12 or so points just yesterday. Arkansas being the dog there. Now the Razorbacks are only down 1, 54-53. With just under 7 minutes ago, as Davenport hit both free throws. Arkansas has been good at the line. Makai Mitchell with a block shot on Murphy. Murphy gathers the ball, the offensive rebound, and puts it back. If Arkansas loses this game, now down 3, 56-53, if Arkansas loses this game, it will look at that offensive glass, the second chance points, and just even though the initial defense improved after that 8 and 10 start all around the basket in this game for Mississippi State, after Arkansas's defense got much better the rest of the way, not closing out good, solid defensive possessions. Battle goes baseline, drives toward the baseline. It's the second time in the last 5 or so minutes he's done that, and then pulls up for a little 10-footer, and he got fouled on this one. So an and one opportunity for Battle to tie this game. This is a night for him. Battle has not, even when he's hit double figures in league play, it hasn't been very often. And when he does, it's not been all that efficient. It really hasn't. It's been, just one of those things where he had to shoot a lot and have a lot of careless possessions and looks to get his points. Today, he's a lot more efficient. Missed the free throw, 80+% free throw shooter. Misses that, doesn't convert. 6 minutes to go, 56-55, Mississippi State. You're probably watching. You don't need me to give you the updates on the score and what's actually playing out. But in case you're not, you're watching this, you get an idea of what's going on. And for those that are joining me, thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live in game. And then this will turn into a post game after that. We'll talk more about what it means. And we'll talk more about the direction of the program and what Arkansas is facing, in a season that's really gotten away from them. This would be a nice win. This would be a good win for Eric Musselman and the Razorbacks in a season like this. I mean, you go back and start counting up Duke and A&M at home and Georgia at home. For what it's worth, this is a good matchup though, because this is not a good offensive or efficient offensive team. It's a poor free throw shooting team, Mississippi State, and it's just enough. Despite Arkansas's other problems on this court, the other thing that's helped Arkansas is winning the turnover battle. They haven't mentioned that when I came on. I'm not looking at the stats right now, but Arkansas was +6 in turnovers and 13-7. And even though Mississippi State was actually +1 in points off turnovers, Arkansas is not getting its head caved in like it did against Tennessee, among other issues, glass work and other things where it was a big deficit. I mean, Mississippi State's dominated the glass today, and Arkansas is only down 3. So 2 made free throws for the Bulldogs there. By my count, if I've kept up with this right, now 12 of 21. Not a great free throw effort so far. But the Bulldogs just make 2 in a row, up 3, 58-55. Davenport penetration, Battle with a little move, a little mid post off the Davenport drive, kicks to Battle near the paint. He turned and got in the paint and knocked down a little 10-footer. So Hogs down within 1. So now this is the kind of performances you were expecting from Battle, in addition to a guy like Tremont Mark that's carried Arkansas in so many games and some of these back and forth deals. Oh, looked like Arkansas might have forced a turnover. There's contact. They've whistled Mekhi Mitchell for a foul there in the middle of the paint. He disagrees with the call. He's smiling. Hogs down 1, but you expected Battle to be more of this guy, approaching 20 points wherever he's at right now. You expected these kind of games from him through league play, and it not just be like a Tremont Mark that's your kind of go-to guy and go finding ways to score. Battle's a guy that came in with a billing. As much as I saw him play and looked at his footage and highlights, he was a guy that could get at all 3 levels and create, and he just hasn't been able to do that. And this has been a good game for him. It's helping Arkansas stay in it. All right, Bell's at the line, made the first free throw here. Arkansas's in the bonus plus. Mississippi State will go to the bonus plus on the next Arkansas foul. But Bell makes the front end, and then he misses the second. So Mississippi State's made 3 of its last 4 free throws, a much better efficiency than prior to that. But only a 2-point lead right now, 59-57, 5 minutes to go in this game. Again, I'm impressed with Arkansas's fight and ability to match Mississippi State on its home court. Another offensive rebound for Jeremiah Davenport after a Battle miss. Battle to Davenport for corner 3. He missed that. And Arkansas, both teams woeful from 3. Arkansas thinks had more attempts in this game. The margins closed there because Mississippi State's taken more in this half. I don't know how much the margins closed, but it was pretty significant on the attempts amount. Mississippi State sticks to its knitting and goes after that rim. Arkansas's done a better job of it in the second half, and the defense has been better. 4 minutes to go, and this is a battle. I mean, right? Speaking of Caliph battle, desperation three to beat the shot clock from Matthews, ball out of bounds, Arkansas's ball. So got lucky there. Dead ball, defensive rebound. Once again, Mississippi State was attacking the glass. All right, we're 15 minutes in. We're going to talk more once we get through the end of this game. By the way, really impressed. I mean, Davenport has not shot the ball well, and that's been the case all year long. But we saw him on the road against Georgia really get on the glass and battle. That's the last time I remember him being that good on the glass as he's been here down the stretch on the offensive glass. And so he's on the court. Arkansas is obviously playing with one big here now with Mitchell. Drives in, gets fouled. Makai's been better at the free throw line. He's been pretty good at the free throw line down the stretch of the season. So we'll see if he can get up here and knock down a couple of free throws. We've seen Battle struggle a little bit here on that and one, missing one. Arkansas did start pretty well at the foul line. I think I mentioned it, 5 of 6. Battle then hit 1 of 2. It was 6 of 8. Battle then missed the and one, so I think Arkansas 6 of 9, unless I think Davenport also got to the line. I'm not sure. I know he made 2, but I'm not sure if I'd already accounted for those when I came on here. But Mitchell's now going to have an opportunity to go and has a chance to tie this game when we come out of the under 4 timeout. Tight game in Starkville. And again, you could have come into this saying, look, we don't know what this Arkansas team's going to do. Could be another blowout loss. It's disappointing you're glad to see this kind of effort in a game. A lot of fans are maybe tuned out, maybe not willing to give this Arkansas team much credit because of the fact that the season looks like it's going nowhere. And you also it's fair to, voice disappointment that Arkansas is so inconsistent. To have a few games at least where Arkansas has been competitive. I mean, the Georgia game, remember, Arkansas in the 8 league losses, I mentioned 20+ points, which is that's never happened. Some of those historical losses too, but 2 more by double-digit margins. So that's 7 total double-digit margins. The only relatively close loss that you had, it was close, was against Kentucky at home by 6. We can then shift over to Georgia, even though it was a 10-point loss. The Hogs were within 3 points, in the final 5 minutes. Missed the front end of a 1-1 that might have shaved that even closer. So that was a competitive game. This is a competitive game. Arkansas won at Missouri. Not a good team again. So there have been moments. We go back to the Duke win and all that. So what's the point of bringing all that up? It is because I think it's fair to say that this is not just about a really bad collection of talent. I just don't see it that way. I think there's talent here. It's a bad collection of poor chemistry, guys not instinctively being good defenders, not buying into defensive schemes, not executing consistently. But you wonder, how can this team have moments beyond 1 or 2 games and actually have a handful or more games and then get blown out so much? There have been, on and off the court stuff. We've seen a lot of players missing games. Again, Brazile, his 6th consecutive game. Graham's back on the injured list, not playing today. It's just one of those things where you kind of scratch your head and go, Arkansas has been mostly bad. And right when you think that's what this team is, there may be a performance like this. It's at the point of the season now where there's really not there's not much to build off of this, because I think the matchup again in some ways favored Arkansas. What really would have Arkansas in trouble right now is if Mississippi State was knocking down its free throws at a better percentage, but it's not a good free throw shooting team. You figured Arkansas was going to have to do better than it has on the glass compared to Mississippi State today to have a chance. But again, the free throw lines mattered. Arkansas's won the turnover game. That's mattered. No one would have predicted that. This was a Mississippi State team, that's really good defensively, like Tennessee, when you look at field goal percentages and those things. And Arkansas has actually done pretty well in that department relative to what Mississippi State typically does. And so, when you look at it statistically, Arkansas's offense relative to what this defense usually yields, and it's on its home court, the free throw and turnover disparity, that's been enough to have Arkansas with a chance now. Makai's at the line. We're out of that timeout, 3:42 to go, 2-point lead for Mississippi State. But again, Texas A&M is another team that can be vulnerable, even at home. Arkansas has not won very much in Mississippi State. Same on the road in College Station. This would be one of those rare wins here in Starkville for the Arkansas program. Mitchell knocks down both free throws. Arkansas having a good day at the line. Battle uncharacteristically missed a couple out of his 3 attempts, but Arkansas has been good at the line. We're tied at 59 all. Okay, so a stack screen right to draw defenders onto the right side. You had Matthews coming up on the left. Arkansas commits a foul in the congestion there. So both teams now, let's take a look at this. Both teams in the bonus plus. So for a poor free throw shooting team like Mississippi State, you've just helped them out. Mark also fouls out. So this is a big juncture because this is the guy that can go and get you a bucket late in a game like this. But Mark is now out. It's not been a great game for him anyway, but he's out and you fouled. And Mississippi State is pours it at the line. There's no chance at an offensive rebound off of first missed free throw because now it's double bonus. And it's Hubbard. Hubbard makes the first. So State's been a little better at the free throw line down the stretch. 60-59. He's got a second free throw coming up to see if he can double that lead for the Bulldogs. All right. 2-point lead. He made both free throws, 61-59, 3:34 to go. Arkansas is hanging in there. And those of you who have joined me or stuck around or not, I don't know, but thank you for doing it. This is new for me. I wanted to try this. All right, Arkansas on offense. Ellis is bringing it up. You got a high screen. Mitchell rolls shallow. Then he finishes the roll. Nice two-man game. Bounce pass from Ellis. Mitchell dunks the ball. We're tied at 61 all. Okay, I like that shallow roll. It wasn't a hard roll where defenders closed that quickly. It was a shallow roll, and he read where Ellis was driving, and then he went ahead and cut hard to the basket and caught Mississippi State off guard. We're tied 61 all. A nice little nuance there and a good read by both players. Ellis with the nice setup there, and Mitchell continues to have a strong second half. And we've seen him as Arkansas's, in these last 5 or 6 games be better offensively and everywhere. Another offensive rebound for Mississippi State, and Tolu Smith fumbles the ball out of bounds. Arkansas flat-footed and watching that offensive rebound. Man, Arkansas catches a break there. Nice drive. Mitchell cuts. They're showing the replay of that play. Tolu Smith late, no rotation on that. There was a little bit of nuance to that play on that last possession. Now Arkansas's got it again. Ellis, Mississippi State's going to a 2-3 zone now. I'm going to see if they can keep Arkansas from playing two-man game. Mitchell sets a pick regardless. Battle gets the soft spot and a soft runner. Misses it. Makai Mitchell with a putback. Arkansas has really hit the offensive glass late in this game. The Hogs are up again. Second lead here in the second half, 63-61. Tolu Smith playing a little ISO ball. Devo comes to help, shows help and recovers. Good defense right there. Down to 13 seconds of the shot clock. Matthews creating one-on-one on Battle. Battle does a poor job moving his feet. Matthews finishes and one on the finger roll. 63 all, 2 minutes to go. Matthews will be shooting a free throw. All right, so Arkansas, a good initial defensive possession. Then you ISO a bigger guy. Battle, they list at 6'5". Sometimes it feels like he's 6'3", the way he defends against some of these bigger wings in the SEC. That was just that was a tough matchup there. And offense in this league is usually better than defense. Against Mississippi State, not always. They're not the most skilled guys, but that was a good work to the bucket. Battle's now out. I guess he's done. Was that his 5th foul? He's out of the game with 2 minutes to go. Here's a guy that's been Arkansas's offense, along with Makai Mitchell here in the second half. So we're tied at 63. Matthews missed the free throw. Still tied. So no and one conversion, no 1-point lead for the Bulldogs. Ellis brings it up. Arkansas clears, sends everybody. Okay, so Arkansas tried to work something with 3 players on the right side. Devo was set up left. It pulled defenders away, and Ellis made a read and decided to drive left, kicked out to Devo, but was fouled on the drive. So Ellis is going to get 2 free throws. Arkansas's in the double bonus. I like the idea of just trying to get guys in isolation situations at this point in the game, mainly because Mississippi State, since the early going, has not defended Arkansas's drives very well. And so take advantage of that. Get some space on one side of the floor and attack it. So Ellis hits both free throws. Arkansas back up by 2 with 1:49. Guys, we're close to talking about an Arkansas victory today. I don't want to jinx it, but that would be something. We're 25 minutes in. I hope you'll stay with me and others will join us. Hubbard with a nice one-on-one move again. Arkansas a little vanilla on the, so it was a turn and spin pivot move into the paint. Little runner ties the game at 65 all. We're inside a minute 30. Ellis handling up high, back in the zone for Mississippi State. Man, there's just a lot of gaps in the zone. They threw it in the middle to Mitchell. Poor pass, bounce pass, trying to get it to Lawson. Arkansas's got 2 bigs in the game, and it goes off Matthews, I think between his legs, maybe between the wickets there. And it went off at him. It was lucky. That should have been a turnover and a steal. Matthews is a big steal guy, and that was an opportunity for him. Arkansas maintains possession. Inbounds play. Ellis to Mitchell. We're getting close to a minute here. 4 on the shot clock. Ellis penetrates. Little runner. Lost the ball for a second. Got 8 feet in front of the basket. Little runner in. 67-65 Hogs. 1 minute left. Hubbard pull up 3. Dagger. Not a game winner necessarily, but dagger. 3-pointer for Hubbard on the move going left. Timeout Arkansas with 58 seconds left. Mississippi State up 68-67. That was a clutch shot right there. Nope, Ellis didn't lose control of the ball. I thought initially he did. They just showed a replay. Man, Hubbard driving left and settles for a 3, but he knocked it down. Wow. This is going to go to the wire for Arkansas. We've seen what we've seen a lot of this year is Arkansas really good in the first. When they've been good, it's been in the first half, and they have a lot of letdowns in the second half, and maybe get blown out or find ways to lose. This is a game where I wouldn't say as much Arkansas found a way to lose. Arkansas's found a way to stay in this game. Arkansas's found a way to be competitive in this game, and someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. And you're on the road; it's not going to be easy. One team's playing for postseason, the other one's really not. Nonetheless, Arkansas's playing like this matters, and you like to see that. And Arkansas's got 58 seconds in possession of the ball, only down 1, and we come back out of this timeout. If you're a Razorback fan keeping up with this today and not completely tuning out, you've got to be pleased, with this effort, and you got to be pleased with the fact that Arkansas's got a chance to win. Remember, I went back to the Georgia game. You lose by 7 there. Mizzou is the only road game in league play. Arkansas led by 23 points in that game and had a horrible second half defensively. Mizzou got back in it. Arkansas, the clock ran out. Arkansas was still up 7. Worst team in the league. So outside of that outlier, it's not been good for Arkansas in this league, and it's certainly not been good on the road. A couple of close home wins we know when Arkansas fell behind late and still found a way to win. Against both A&M in January and then not that long ago against Georgia. So Arkansas has been through some of these fires, but that's been on their home court where they figured out how to win even after falling behind late or being behind. In this game, Arkansas's trailed a lot, but grabbed a few now second half leads, never more than 1 possession, never more than 2 points. So, that's one of those back and forth things you're into now, but you like to see Arkansas in this game with a chance to win it. Again, when I came on is when I had a view of stats. When we go through post game, anybody that can plug in some final stats for me as far as some of the team stuff, whether it's rebounds, turnovers, seconds, I appreciate that because I do this on my phone. I don't have a laptop out here with me. I've got that linked up to my actual PC up there, and I didn't have that prepared today. Kind of last minute when I decided to do some of this in-game, so I won't have a look at final stats. I do feel like Arkansas's come a long way in the second half. Shooting the ball, and a lot of times it's the reverse. Better second half for the Hogs. And Arkansas shot well against Georgia at home in the second half. That was kind of an outlier. Not today, because Arkansas is doing a much better job. Second half offense has been really good. Some of that's been battle, just getting hot. A lot of it's Mekhi Mitchell doing work. And then Jeremiah Davenport, we got to talk about his work on the offensive glass here down the stretch, because that's where Mississippi State just kept having a huge advantage, and Arkansas needed some of that return fire on its own offensive glass. So it was good to see that. It's been good to see that. This one's 68-67, 58 seconds remaining. Mississippi State leads by 1 on its home court. The Bulldogs have 2 timeouts left. Arkansas with 3 is what the graphic just showed me here as I watched this. my eyes dart away to catch this. We got a weird shadow here. I didn't even put the brights on, did I? All right. Mild pressure, not really pressure. Mississippi State shows defenders in the backcourt as Arkansas brings it up and then runs everybody back. And it's back to man-to-man. High screen, Ellis, Devo, move it right. Davenport going two-man with Mackay. Another screen. Nice roll by Mackay. And a lefty miss. Offensive rebound by Chandler Lawson. He misses the putback. And Mackay Mitchell reaches out to foul Matthews in the backcourt. Not a big play on the ball. So Arkansas got two really good looks there. Really good offense. They're showing Eric Musselman. He doesn't look happy about it. I don't know if he's upset about the execution or lack of it on that as far as a finish and finishing shot, or if there's something to do with the contact or the decision to foul. 29 seconds left. Double bonus again. Matthews at the line. Mississippi State holding 1 point lead. Arkansas had great opportunities there. Mackay Mitchell with a 6-footer that he just missed. It wasn't a bad miss, but all misses are bad at this stage. Matthews misses the front end there, so misses the first free throw. Second free throw upcoming. Mississippi State clinging to a 1 point lead. Smart foul by Mackay Mitchell. If Arkansas finds a way to win this game, this second half and the free throw shooting for Mississippi State. Missed both. All right, Mackay with the defensive rebound. We're under 25 seconds. Devo Davis calls a timeout. Near half court, inside the half court line. Arkansas with 21 seconds. Possession of the ball when we get on the other side of this timeout. A chance to finish this game, win this game. Going back to the previous offensive possession, you saw Arkansas run three pick and roll actions with Mackay Mitchell. It started high with Ellis. There wasn't anything there. Arkansas reversed. Ellis went left, reversed the ball back to the right wing, and then Mackay and Jeremiah Davenport played two-man game on a couple of reverse screens. Mitchell finally getting a return pass from Davenport on that third and final screen, the second with Davenport, and took a dribble going left, which is a nice, he finishes a lot of those. Had a nice look at the basket again, about 6 to 7 feet. Missed that. Lawson comes in there and battles for an offensive rebound. Chandler Lawson goes up, looked like he hit the bottom of the rim, or the side of the rim, right there at the rim on the baseline, on the left baseline, and it was short. There looked like there might have been contact, maybe not. No call. Matthews cleared it. That's when Mackay Mitchell intentionally fouled him to stop the clock, and then missed both free throws. So Arkansas, they put more time on the clock, by the way. I described it as 21 seconds. It'll be 23.5 seconds coming out of this timeout. They've got a close-up on Eric Musselman and his hog hoodie, his Nike hog hoodie, and he's barking out instructions. These guys look serious about finding a way to win this game. And Musselman's having a word with the official before Arkansas inbounds the ball. Chris Jans, is everybody's fired up at Mississippi State trying to find a way to hold on to this lead? So many of these games, by the way, in the recent past have been very close. I mean, close games. And so last year, Mississippi State came into Fayetteville and won. Really kind of controlled that game. I was covering it there for Hogville and was in the building at Bud Walton. All right, Arkansas inbounds to Ellis out high. Devo sets a pick. Mitchell to set Mitchell out to set another pick. Kick out to Devo. He drives in. Arkansas turns it over. He dished to Mitchell. But weird angle, tough angle for Mitchell to catch it. The ball slipped through his hands. That was a very awkward possession for Arkansas. Turnover, Mississippi State collects the loose ball, fouled with 7.7 seconds left. Bulldogs are up by a point, shooting 2 free throws with 7.7. So Devo was open on the kick out. He bypassed a three to drive. He did not have a very good drive. The defender stayed connected. Even though Devo got a little leverage, stayed connected, and the traffic was tight. He forced in a kind of an awkward pass. Mitchell couldn't handle it. The ball squirted through. That's how Mississippi State got possession and now at the line. First free throw good. Second one upcoming. Arkansas's down 2 now, 69-67. Bulldogs pulling players off the free throw line now, getting back on defense. The Hogs do have 2 timeouts left. Let's see what happens here as State shoots another free throw. 2 for 2, so 3-point advantage. Bulldogs, Arkansas takes a timeout. So 7.7 seconds remaining. Razorbacks down 3 now, 70-67. Uh, so this is where you've got another timeout after this. If the graphic is right, this is where I get into these late game situations. And what do you do? 7.7 seconds is not a lot of time, but couple of things. You do not have to settle for a three if you can quickly get to the basket and either draw a foul. They're showing 3-point shooting today. 3 of 17 for the Hogs, 4 of 15 for Mississippi State. The Bulldogs are actually better. Arkansas had 2 at halftime, only 1 for the Bulldogs at halftime. So the Bulldogs have made 3 in the second half. Arkansas only 1. So that's probably been critical for Mississippi State when Arkansas has been better at getting to the cup. However, how do you play 7.7 with a timeout remaining? If that's inaccurate on the graphic after this timeout, you could try to get a quick 2 and foul immediately. This is not a good free throw shooting team because you still have another timeout. There's not a lot of clock left. You might just try to work yourself into a 3, but you need to have a play for that gets to that pretty quickly too. Because if you miss it, you'll want enough time to foul with a timeout left and still maybe give yourself a chance. At that point, Mississippi State would need them to miss 2 free throws. I don't know if they're that bad, but they just did that not long ago, just time before last on Matthews. But again, there's 2 ways to play this with another timeout. 7.7 is not a lot of time. You really want to get a score if you're going for 2 before you get under 4 seconds. If you do that, look at it this way. If you do that and Mississippi State makes only 1 free throw, well, you're down only 2 and you've got that other timeout and you would still have around 4 seconds to operate. It's enough time to get a good look if you do it right. With Tremont, Mark, and Battle out, you don't really have a guy that can get you that quick kind of score. I don't know how Arkansas does this because this is a good defensive team in Mississippi State. And Arkansas, most of what they've had to do has been a bit methodical. Nothing's come quick and easy, really, with the exception of a few plays in this game. So, it comes down to so Arkansas is going full length. If you get something quick, it's got to be over the defense. If not, you got to go 3, and that's what Arkansas is going to have to do here. Ellis driving up. They call a foul. He dished to Mitchell, who shot a 3, but they called a foul. 3.6 seconds left. Officials called a foul. Mississippi State obviously didn't want to give up a 3-point look. Fouled on a pass. That might have been a situation where Ellis should have gone ahead and shot the ball toward the rim and seen if he could have gotten 3 free throws. It looked pretty clear that he was probably fouled on the floor anyway. Yeah, so you had to have a play there, come inbounding on your own end. Missed the first free throw. 3.6 seconds left. I think you got to miss the second one on purpose and try to kick out for 3. Even if you make this, you're down 2 and you have to foul. I guess you could get a steal on the inbounds and score 2. So there's more than one way to play this. You do have, this says 2 more timeouts. It said that before Arkansas took the last timeout, so I don't know what to believe on the graphic here on ESPNU. But the Razorbacks, Ellis has been a pretty good free throw shooter. That's tough. He missed on purpose, batted off the rim. Arkansas fouls on a defensive rebound by Matthews with 1.7 seconds left. All right, Arkansas is going to lose this game. There's not a pathway. I mean, there is a pathway technically. Matthews, who did miss his previous 2, could go 0 for 2 here. You're still only down 3. 1.7 seconds left. You're effectively looking at probably best a 3/4 court attempt. So it looks like Arkansas is going to lose this game today. Arkansas now, we'll hold off here for a second. We're going to get into postgame. We're going to roll right into it. 38 minutes in. This has been kind of fun for me to do this. I'm probably going to do some exploratory full game coverage at some point here soon, maybe for Texas A&M in the next game. Hopefully I'm not too annoying describing what's going on when you're watching it on television. But this is, I thought Arkansas did a lot of really good stuff here in the downstretch of this game to try to win it. I don't think Arkansas executed very well a couple of times. Obviously didn't finish around the basket twice. And then the turnover, Devo trying to get to Mitchell. Second shot, Matthews made the first, missed the second. Arkansas heave at the buzzer. Razorbacks lose 71-67. This is the first time in the era of Eric Musselman as the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks that the program has dipped below 500 overall in a season. The Razorbacks now 12-13. It's never happened under Muss. Year 5. So it's a couple of statements there. The first part of that is that's good. The other part of it is how bad have things gotten. 3-9 in league play now. Arkansas's got 6 remaining league games. 3 on the road, 3 at home. The next game is on the road at A&M. Never an easy place for Arkansas to play. I like that they're still fighting. I like that comment. I agree. I like that they're still fighting. Look, there's different shades of bad. Arkansas is not a good basketball team, but Arkansas played what might end up being an NCAA tournament team, a team that's had a lot of respect on it most of the season, despite some of its struggles, and a team that's really highly ranked in the net. I mean, top 35. Arkansas was in it to win it. Didn't. Arkansas now 1-8 in quad 1 games. I think still 2-4 in quad 2. I need to go back and check that a little bit later, but most of the wins have been in quad 3 and quad 4. Arkansas's got the ugly quad 3 loss at home to Greensboro way back in November. But the Razorbacks now, I repeat, first time ever under Eric Musman as the head coach of the Razorbacks, that the program is underwater in an overall record at any point of the season. 12-13, 3-9 in league play. Again, you stay on the road. You play at A&M on Wednesday or midweek. Is it Wednesday, Tuesday? I forget already. I think it's Wednesday. But Arkansas's, one loss away now. One more loss, and Arkansas has guaranteed itself a losing record in SEC play for the second consecutive season. We know the Hogs finished 8-10 last year in league play, 10th place. The run to the Sweet 16 was great. There's no doubt about it. We remember what happens in March. That really is the most important thing. But there are other things that are important, and we also start looking at trends. 8-10 last year. Right now, 3-9. That's 11-19 in your last 30 SEC games. You have to go back 2 seasons ago to find winning success in the SEC. It's a fact. It's a fact. I'm not cherry picking data. I'm talking about facts. We've also seen the last 3 seasons, Arkansas go to back-to-back Elite Eights. I mentioned last year's Sweet 16, so 3 consecutive seasons of having runs in the NCAA tournament, knocking off some top-tier teams along the way, knocking off top-tier teams in the regular season. By the way, Arkansas in the first Elite Eight season started terrible in league play, finished second, a game and a half only behind Alabama, the league champs. The next year, another horrible start to league play, 0-3. Arkansas finishes in the top 4, got the double bye in the SEC tournament. Another Elite Eight season. That was when really those top 4 teams in the league. I mean, that was a strong SEC, especially the top 4, and Arkansas made it there. So it's relative. It's relative now too, because we've seen what I mentioned. I mean, again, just math: 11-19 in your last 30 SEC regular season games. That's what the last 2 seasons have looked like. Well, there's more season left here. I mentioned Arkansas playing at A&M. Arkansas loses that game. Now they're 2 games below 500 if that happens. And the overall record makes it harder to try to snap back, to finish with a winning record in league play, in the overall record. But the next loss guarantees Arkansas a losing record in league play again for the second consecutive season. Had Arkansas won this game, had Arkansas found a way to win, then it would just need to split these last 6 games to finish with a winning record going into the SEC tournament. And you've got LSU, who did clobber Arkansas on the road, but we know Arkansas will probably be better. That's not a great LSU team. It's one of the bottom teams in the league, bottom half. And then Mizzou and Vanderbilt at home. So you had a pathway, if you won this game, to finish in 16-15. You go, what does that matter? Believe me, it matters. Regardless of if your head coach sticks around or moves on, the optics of your program, especially with some of the things that have gone on this year, on and off the court, rumors, all kinds of crap, the optics are a little bit better when it doesn't look like you're a losing program. So even if you entered if Arkansas can manage to find a way, they still have a chance. I think it's a lot less likely. They need a road win somewhere to do it, and this was a grand opportunity. I don't know if it'll be as clean at A&M, Kentucky, and Alabama on the road and be this close with a real chance to win. But Arkansas at 16-15 going into the SEC tournament, even if it loses the first round game, it doesn't have a losing record. So again, you can say, well, that's just trivial stuff. It's a bad year. Yeah, Arkansas is not going to postseason. You're trying to salvage everything you can. So the positive is Arkansas against a good team. You look at Mississippi State, as bad as it's been at the free throw line, Arkansas needed it not to have a good game there. That happened. Arkansas battled on that offensive glass a lot better in the final 10 minutes, closed that gap, because when I joined you guys, with about 10 minutes to go, it was 13-3 plus 10 advantage Mississippi State on the offensive glass. Now the Bulldogs kept getting some offensive rebounds, but Arkansas started matching that. And Arkansas was in the game at that point with 10 minutes to go, despite that disparity. Again, I've talked a lot about the free throw shooting. Arkansas missed some clutch ones late, man. Battle missed 2. That's not like him. Relative to his volume, he only took 3. I think he only made 1. You had Ellis miss 1 late that Arkansas really needed, and it changed the points on the board in the closing seconds of what was still needed to try to either tie it or win. And it changes the complexion of what you can do when time's running out and the clock's not your ally. Tough loss, 4-point loss, 71-67. Arkansas covered by a lot. If you gamble and you bet on these things, you're happy about that. If you don't, you're still happy that Arkansas gave itself a chance to win. I think a lot of fans after this last loss thinking, well, are they gonna still fight and find ways to justify their existence as a basketball team? 45 minutes in, it's interesting. We're going to go over an hour today because I am going to do a post game because I think we need to now get outside of this game. I don't have all the final stats. Some of those could flash up if people want to bring them and stuff they think stands out about this game. A couple of more positives. Not only was Arkansas close, Caleb Battle finally showed some life as a guy that can help Arkansas in the SEC. A little too late, but better late than never. Also, I don't know. You mince that how you want. Mekhi Mitchell continues overall. When you go all the way back to the Kentucky game, when he had that big double-double, then a double-double on the road at Mizzou, scored in double figures in the next 2 games, including the win over Georgia, and had scored the game winner against the Bulldogs. Wasn't his game. Obviously, didn't have a very good game against Tennessee. Didn't seem like really anybody did. Nobody did for Arkansas. But I thought his second half was really good. Played with some foul trouble in the first half, as did Devo. They sat a lot. Jeremiah Davenport getting on the offensive glass late. That helped Arkansas give itself a chance to win it. Ellis made some nice plays, passes, had a bucket. And Arkansas didn't just lay down today. So positives there. Looking ahead, I've talked a lot about this. I'm going to continue to talk about the coaching carousel. There's a lot of movement already. Ohio State's head coach out. You look around, some of the, whether you consider Louisville a blue blood or not, likely to be a big change, big changes around college basketball. That's one of the programs. There'll be others. They'll keep an eye on the West Coast. Some of those teams or teams that play near the West Coast are considered on that, the western part of the country, high majors. You got to keep your eye on a lot of these moving parts. And it's still my opinion that Eric Musselman for months has expressed interest in moving on. Still, not maybe, I've had some source information saying in some regard directly, at minimum through third parties. But the dynamics of this season, other moving parts in college basketball, other coaches who maybe weren't on a radar for being elevated from where they are to have opportunities somewhere else, having really good seasons. I mean, South Carolina's coach, Paris is an example of that. But there are others. And so things will shift, things will change, dominoes will fall in funny ways. So we never know what will happen. But I'm still of the opinion that if there's an opportunity that Musselman would like, no, by no means is he on a hot seat, but if there's an opportunity that he would like, that he'll leave. I still believe that. But, narratives will be played how they'll be played later. If he remains Arkansas's coach, of course the narrative is going to be that he was never looking anywhere else. Of course that's going to, whether, I don't know what kind of official statement we'll see or what kind of press conference or what kind of chatter there'll be about that coming out of the U of A. But if he stays, it's that's going to be played as it was always going to be that way. So be prepared for that, and which is look, he shouldn't be on a hot seat. This is not a good season. He's been really, really good at Arkansas. He's given Arkansas its best run of seasons. You have to go back, to Nolan Richardson in the 90s when it was better, but it's been pretty darn good. And this season, obviously, he's gone the other direction. But this should not be a hot seat situation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what's out there for him, how much of that dynamics changed by this season and what other coaches are able to do. It's kind of like a resume for the net rankings and your postseason resume. It's not always about what you're doing. It's about what the teams around you that are similar to you are doing, maybe to look a little better than you to get a better seed or to edge you out and off the bubble and different things. And hiring and the bubble, are kind of similar that way, as will be the portal. NIL is going to play a big deal on this. NIL is going to play a huge deal on coaching moves, obviously portal moves, and I think it gets even more magnified as we move forward. I think Arkansas's got some ground to make up there in terms of what it's able to offer moving forward and continuing, and not continuing to kind of middle or be worse. So I've said this before. I'll say it again. Arkansas has been in a lot of things I've heard are near the bottom, if second to last to Vanderbilt when it comes to NIL. What's there? So you got to be better than that. You may be in a coaching hunt. You're going to have to be better than that to lure a good coach here. Because everything else being equal, Arkansas is a great place to come and win. Tradition, facilities, all that stuff. It's been a storied program, but NIL's, it's just a different animal. Mike Boynton, the head coach who's struggling at Oklahoma State, another, another situation where there very likely could be a coaching change or will be a coaching change. He talked about it just a few days ago and publicly and just said recruiting's not the problem. Building relationships, different things that have historically gone into recruiting, they don't matter like they did. It's really about, who can deliver the better bag, the bigger and better bag. And then when you get to things kind of being equal there, then it might be about, well, where can I get better exposure, better development? But it's kind of inverse now. It's kind of inverse. Where can I get paid? And then who's going to give me, then how do the opportunities look? All things kind of being equal on the money part of it. So Arkansas NIL is going to have to be right there. And again, if you're having a coaching change, it becomes exponentially important because you're not only now talking portal and trying to win those battles, you're not only needing to show that you can be competitive in NIL for your high school recruiting as it moves forward, but you may need it to get the best coach you can get. You may need I think you'll certainly need that to be a strength. And so, without being able to go into a ton of specifics on that in actual numbers, which I'm not going to do, I could tell you that it's seen as a problem area right now. So, and fans have their own takes on what NIL is doing to the college game, and specifically at Arkansas. Questions about effort, availability, all these things. Whether they're valid or not, it's a perception. So I'm not going to get into specifics and validate anything right or wrong on individuals or things that have happened, whether it's football, basketball. What I will say, there is a perception out there. And it's understandable. It's not an unreasonable perception necessarily. Doesn't mean that it's 100% right. Doesn't mean that the facts align with some of these theories and things that are being said, but it's understandable. And all you have to do is look at pro sports and see, or look at just the NBA. Just the NBA alone has on top of the salaries guys get, and on top of how they incentivize specific and individual contracts, as a blanket, the NBA's tried to find ways to incentivize players to play more and not take off games for soreness or different things. Legitimate injuries are one thing, but guys, and so it's a slippery slope. But they've actually instituted things to incentivize having a minimum games to play for players to be eligible for postseason accolades. That matters because that impacts everybody's individual money in their contracts and what their value is on the market. So they need those awards. It's not just about their stats. It's about recognition. You see that in-season tournament. They did that not only to create fan interest, but the fan interest is only as good as the players playing, the star players and the top guys. So they wanted to incentivize players. If you win that, you got more money and it, as a player. So if you want it, and you really didn't add games. You didn't add very many games to your regular season. Really none for anybody, but maybe the couple of teams that made it to the title game. So, in sports, that's a real perception thing. Are guys not clocking in enough? So I only bring that up not to go on a rant about it, but NIL, it changes perception for everybody. It changes perception about what it's going to take to win. Then you wonder, well, what happens when you get the guys you want? Can we count on what's going on? How does that influence them? Are they playing for the bag? Or are they playing for the name on the front of the jersey? How do you balance that? How do you get them to suit up? All right, so we're going through some of that. We're looking ahead a little bit. What does Arkansas need to do to get better? I mentioned when I tweeted out that I was going to do this today we wouldn't talk a whole lot about the game because we did that while during it and a little bit after. But what does Arkansas got to do to move ahead, with or without Eric Musselman? Eric Musselman, if it's him, if he's back, this is a guy that likes to turn over the roster. This was a weird season. He got some guys back. Two of them were preseason All SEC picks. One of them was All League defensive team last year. Been one of the best players in the program in Devo Davis. Yeah, he's had his downs too, but more ups, and especially at clutch time in March. Well, there's not going to be a March this year other than finishing out the regular season and maybe one and done, or who knows, in the SEC tournament. But you've got guys, he has more eligibility. Tremont Mark has more eligibility. Layden Blocker, if he chooses to stick around, is a guy that I think can help you build your program around. Whether it's Eric Musselman or some other coach, there are pieces here. Now, if you have a coaching change, everybody might split. If you don't have a coaching change as bad as this has been, you still might not have many, if any, come back. And so, how do you move forward? If it's Eric Musselman coming back, we've seen the track record and what he's been able to do. Yeah, his team starts slow in SEC play. This one never stopped, starting slow. It never stopped starting slow. It's still starting slow, 3-9 through its first 12 games. But he's had massive success when you start looking at February and March where you want to be good. What have been the key elements of that? It's always been getting his defense right. It's always been a team that grinds, can either be physical, be cerebral, win those blue collar battles to get to the free throw line more than the opponent and be efficient enough. Win that battle. Win turnover battles. Create live ball turnovers. Arkansas has gotten better than that late in the season, but where they start to get better in one place, they continue to not be good in others, or in areas where they had been good, they start to fail there. So you're just kind of like whack-a-mole with how can we screw this up? And despite maybe fixing a thing here or there, other things break again or all of a sudden. So it's been that kind of a thing. So you think about moving forward, to me, it's always starts on the defensive end. He's got to get guys that he can mold and see in his evaluation that can help what his vision is here. It's got to start there. Yes, he went and recruited guys that shot better, were a little better offensively, and probably thought because the success he's had of bringing guys along. I mean, let's not forget Stanley Amude, Odis Tony, some of these other guys that looked at Justin Smith, they all had traits to be really good defenders. Jalen Tate was a guy that came in as an all-league defender, and I think a defensive player of the league in his mid-major conference coming in. But not all these guys were thought of as necessarily as defensive juggernauts. But Musselman figured out a way to mold him into what he expects and what he wants to get on that end of the floor. And eventually those things started to come to reality. And now Arkansas was a squad. It wasn't necessarily great three-point shooting team or have the best, if you go through Jalen Tate's probably the most consistent point guard Arkansas's had when you look at running a team. And he really wasn't a true point guard. He was a facilitator first guard, a veteran guy who just knew how to play and did it and was a very good defender. Had length and size. Anthony Black was admirable last season, but a true freshman, as good as he was, top 6 lottery pick. There were times where, he was still, his lack of understanding of the game, had a lot of high volume turnover games. That's just part of being young, being 18 years old and coming in and running a team at this level. But Arkansas, JD Notae was a score first kind of guy, not the best decision maker, erratic, but played his ass off. Made a lot of plays at both ends. And if he got hot, you could run through him and have some success. Jalen Williams, kind of that 1-2 with that fixer at both ends. Arkansas hasn't had anybody like that. Tremont Mark's been the most consistent player, and I would say everybody's been disappointing defensively when you look at the arc of the season, including Tremont. He has been better in some of the hustle play stats, kind of on and off, maybe more consistently for stretches. Some of it was back in the 5 out of 6 game win streak to finish up December, then some tail off, and then he was kind of back with some of that through some of the SEC games. But outside of him, there's been nobody. I mean, Mekhi Mitchell, I mentioned him just lately. It's not enough. Arkansas, Musselman's got to go back, if he's the coach, and find more guys that are going to not let Arkansas down on the defensive end. Even if it takes him a while to get them there, that he's got to identify those kind of players again. I don't think, Arkansas, not as big as last year's team on the perimeter. Fishback today, I heard him talking about how Arkansas had a lot of size and length in the backcourt. And Mark has got some of that, but he's not a physical guy. he's not an athletic guy that's rising up over people. He's not the most physical guy. I think Caleb Battle plays small. If he is 6'5", I don't think he's 6'5". I think he plays small in Matador. Ellis plays small. I don't think he's 6'3". Devo hasn't been Devo, 6'3.5", 6'4". He's got some length, but I think Arkansas's backcourt needs to you know, probably get more size with athleticism, but tougher guys, not between the ears, tougher, also more physical. And then the front line, Jalen Graham, who missed today, has been mostly a finesse player. Trevor Brazile, who's missed the last 6 games, mostly a finesse player. Makai Mitchell, his brother's actually the more physical of the two. I got to see Mikal and KK Robinson, by the way, on Thursday. Big win for the Little Rock Trojans at home at the Jack. Good crowd relative to what they usually get, about 2,200. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in that smaller arena, it's a nice arena, but a really good crowd, energy and noise in there. But at 1 point win over Morehead State, a team that was 20-5, 11-1, first place in that league. Little Rock gets a big home win. Little Rock's second place. So coming down the stretch, the Trojans, I think, have won 6 of their last 7, but KK had 21 points, 7 rebounds. He actually had 9. They do a poor job statistically in there. He had 9. I told Darrell Walker in the post-game press conference, go back and review film and have the official stats, change that. He had 9 boards in this game, but 3 assists, 2 steals. Started the game hot, kind of got cold, had a nice stretch. I thought down the stretch of the second half when Morehead State kind of grabbed a 5-point lead. KK kept him in it, but Makel Mitchell made plays in that game. 12 points, 7 rebounds. He made his free throws, 6 of 7. But Makel's the more physical guy. Makai's played with more physicality. He's helped Arkansas a little bit. But outside of him, I mentioned Blocker as a guy you'd want to build around and potentially keep. He's a physical guard. He's not the best decision maker. Still makes the same mistakes it seems like he was making when he first started playing, but he's aggressive. He's tough. He's hard-nosed. He can play physical at 6'2". So I think he's a guy that maybe unlike some other guys that didn't play a lot as freshmen that have either moved on or stayed and still not playing, he's the kind of guy that potentially could develop even under Musselman and factor into what Arkansas is trying to do. But again, what does Arkansas need? They need guys that can get it started on defense. And I think more size on the perimeter. I don't know that Eric Musselman will ever recruit a true point guard or bring in a true point guard. Again, Jalen Tate and maybe Anthony Black were the closest to it. But I do think Arkansas needs better guard play in terms of decision making and playing with pace and setting guys up. And again, those were areas where Tate and I thought Black for the most part did a good job, especially Tate. So I think Arkansas needs to get better there. On the front line, they've definitely got to get better. They've got to get tougher. They got to get more physical. This has just been a team that's just Swiss cheese defensively, perimeter, inside and out for the most part. Today, Arkansas had an admirable performance. I mean, it looked like Mississippi State early going was going to have its way. 8 of 10, everything was at the bucket. Tolu Smith, some of the guards and wings driving in there. And then Arkansas, after that, did a much better job of challenging. Mississippi State, conversely, was getting offensive rebounds. But again, Arkansas at least showed it was vintage Eric Musselman in terms of effort and figuring out ways to stay in a game. And in the past, Arkansas found ways to win these kind of games. This team's just not good enough. And you had Mark and Battle foul out down the stretch. Didn't help matters. Maybe it would have been a different outcome, maybe not. I don't know how much Jalen Graham would have helped this team today. This is a really physical game. That's not his game. He likes to operate in space. I don't think he would have had a lot of space on his ISO plays. I think he would have gotten bumped or pushed further away from the basket, honestly. I don't know, but I don't think it would have been I don't know that him being out hurt Arkansas all that much. We can make excuses all we want. This is a bad basketball team. Now we're talking about how does it get better. If it's Eric Musselman back, I think we talked through some of that. I think if he's got the kind of players that can do what he wants, at some point they're going to figure it out defensively on a broken record now, and they'll fill in the blanks, attack the basket, get to the free throw line, better guard play to set plays up. And then if you're not a great 3-point shooting team, and not a good perimeter team when you're talking about ball skill, so be it. So be it. Arkansas's found ways to win despite some of those problems in the previous 3 years. Not so much this year. Still think the second team Musselman had here is the best. Now, why would Musselman be encouraged to leave at this point? like I said, what happens to his options? How much are those slimmed down by the season Arkansas is having relative to what maybe some other coaches are showing success? That schools that might look at Musselman 2 months ago and say, man, we'd love to have him, who might say, you know what, this guy might be good for us, really drilling down on things. I think Musselman would still have opportunities despite a bad season at Arkansas. But are they the kind of opportunities that are still on the table that entice him to leave? The other part of this is there is a reality, despite last season's Sweet 16, that Arkansas went 8-10 and finished 10th in the league, and this season's probably going to be worse, somewhere 12th, 13th, 11th or 12th, maybe. Maybe there's a path to get to 10th. I don't know, but either way, it's another losing record in SEC play. So for someone that his options might not be as good in a year from now, if there's not a turnaround, and I don't see. I went through, if you're building under him, maybe 3 guys coming back that you would want to try to come back. I don't know how that works with Devo. 2 seasons in a row where he stepped away. He's been a great Razorback in so many ways. But he's not as effective. This is his worst season, on top of missing 3 games not that long ago. How does that play out? How would that make sense? Tremont Mark, he's had his one-time transfer. Would he be able to do it again and have immediate eligibility if he didn't want to come back to this program? Is he going to try to move on and play professionally somewhere? I mean, what more is he going to show? He's not an athletic guy. He's not a high skill guy. He was better offensively this year when you compare him to what he did at Houston. Obviously, that wasn't the role they needed for him, and it's the role he's doing now. You could argue it 2 ways. You could say, well, Arkansas would be even worse without him. Well, a lot of what he does is at the expense of good ball movement and things kind of being in a better flow. So there's 2 ways to look at that. But I think if you didn't have him, yeah, you'd be worse off. But I also think, what he does is not the best way to win. So I'm not just knocking him and pinning everything on him. I'm talking about guys as potential comeback guys. I mentioned Layden Blocker. Bay Fall got to see the court today. Didn't even talk about that. And Arkansas was in foul trouble. No Jalen Graham. I thought Fall did a couple of good things. At the end of the first half, it was interesting. You got a block, contested. There was a play where number 12, Murphy, clearly picked his pivot foot up, drove baseline, no foul call, went up. Arkansas challenged it. He was going to be blocked or shut down. He almost landed on his feet. It was a travel, but he got the ball out awkwardly, was lucky. Somehow it slipped through out to the perimeter where Hubbard caught it. No Hog was there. Hubbard launches a clock beating 3 that went in. Arkansas had just tied the game. So it's a 3-point lead. On the other end, Fall off pick and roll, catches a pass, lifts his pivot foot up, whistle blows immediately, traveling. And following that, I believe that's when it was. That's when it was. And then Mississippi State ends up getting a putback and expands back to a 5-point lead for halftime. And so sometimes those things work against you on the road, even at home. When you're a bad team, you don't get calls you should get, and they're going to whistle you quick when you make a mistake. So it was just one of those things. I'm not blaming refs for a loss. I'm saying, that was memorable to me at the end of that first half. But either way, is Bay Fall a guy that would consider sticking around? I'd be surprised by that if Musselman's still the coach. I'd be surprised by it, probably if it's another coach. But maybe he would. Maybe he would. What can you get out of him? He's very raw, but that length and athleticism, if you can somehow put some muscle on him and develop him, maybe he's a long-term guy. That's not really Musselman's forte. And if you can't help Musselman now, he's not really going to use you, and he kind of is inviting you to move on. They help players make that decision. If you look at his track record in the portal, he's lost guys to the NBA and to the draft, but he hasn't really lost anybody to the portal. Those have been those have at best been mutual decisions, and a lot of them been his choice. So maybe that's something, if he stays, where if you see Fall leave, that may have been one of those mutual deals. But again, I'm just trying to run through some guys that, Keon Minifield Jr. is not one that I've mentioned. He's another guy that's already a one-time transfer. We didn't see much of him today. He's got talent. He's light. He's light in the pants. It's tough to be light in the pants in the SEC unless you're just a dynamic playmaker on the offensive end. And then, as you mature, you learn how to get by on defense. and find ways to check some boxes. And he's not there. He's not that kind of guy. He had the 32-point outburst against UNC Wilmington to close out non-conference play. We've seen him have some nice double-figure games, 2 or 3 here and there in league play. Mizzou and Georgia, not that so fairly recently. But right now, he's not the guy where you look at and you know that he could go out and get you 15 to 20 a night without giving it back on the defensive end. And you don't know if he can do that consistently anyway. So, that's a guy that I think you could work with and maybe bring back. But again, at this point, for whoever the coach is, portal's going to be the biggest part of it, is the way I see it. Portal's going to be the biggest part of it. Trevor Brazile, I didn't bring him up, but he's not coming back. He's a guy I don't see any pathway that he's a Razorback next year. I think he's going to, I think it's more likely, I could be wrong about this, more than likely to go ahead and stay out, get himself right for the draft. We'll see. His stock's not where it was, but at this point, you don't want to put up any more bad footage, bad film, and you get your knee right, whatever it is. And then you really try to do well in March and April and some of these opportunities that come up, preparing for the draft. When you talk about workouts, combine, whatever is available to him. And he can help himself because, he's 6'10", probably when they measure him, he'll be 6'9" or so. They do that with the shoes off too. And so that the NBA goes by those heights. But, he's 6'10" in the shoes that he plays in. Got the 7'4" wingspan. He's got crazy hops when he's healthy. He has shown he can be a double-double guy. He's very passive defensively, not strong, not sound in his footwork and has some bad habits. A flat-footed guy, sometimes a ball watcher. But when he's locked in on, and there are things he does that wow you. And he can stretch the floor. That's a big part of the NBA game. Not all of the guys that are 6'9", 6'10", and 6'11" in the NBA are playing a physical game. Then you start saying, well, who can he defend? That's the problem for him. Because some of these guys, 6'9", 6'10", and 6'11", that aren't banging and they're playing face in the basket, one of the good trade-offs is on defensively is they can maybe guard more than one position. I don't know that he can guard one position right now. So he's got a long way to go. He's definitely going to be drafted. If he's drafted, will be based on potential and those intangible, those physical and athletic attributes and some of the face-up stuff he can do. I think he's a guy that can be a quality three-point shooter as he matures, gets stronger, and learns how to play other parts of the game that also bring those elements of face-up stuff that more and more bigs are bringing to the table now, which helps space the floor. More guys with skill, more spacing in the floor. The NBA is the best at that. The college game hasn't caught up to that. And obviously the rules are different too. But I think Trevor Brazile, is gone. That's I kind of went on a rant there. An hour and 12 minutes in. I feel like now I'm just talking for my own entertainment. The Arkansas Razorbacks fall today. Valiant effort. Had a chance to win late. Did not execute at the end. And had to foul to stop the clock. And Mississippi State did enough there at the foul line to pull out a 71-67 victory on its home court. 3 straight wins as Mississippi State tries to shore up an NCAA tournament at-large bid. I think, it's a team that's got a real shot there to be in the tournament. Arkansas obviously is nowhere near that. That's not a reality for Arkansas this year. It's probably going to take 5 wins in 5 days for the automatic bid. That's not going to happen. But, it gives that's what the postseason tournaments give. I think that's part of what makes March Madness fun, by the way. It hurts some of the mid-major schools that go through and the grind of their leagues and win it. But the overall landscape, I think, giving teams chances to still make the dance, it makes it a little more exciting. It adds something to it. I don't think we've lost out on an eventual national champion because a team that won their regular season conference title but lost in their tournament didn't make the dance. I don't think we've missed out on really anything. Now, some of those teams can complain about that, but having said all that, it is exciting, and no matter what happens in these last 6 games, Arkansas comes into the SEC tournament, knowing that if it wins 4 games in 4 days or 5 games in 5 days, whichever case it is, that they'll be dancing for a 4th consecutive year. And, it's happened once at Arkansas back when Nolan was coach. Different coach, better program. It was a better program, even on that team that wasn't going to dance. without winning the SEC tournament. That's the only time Arkansas ever won it, 1999, 2000. The Hogs won the SEC tournament and punched their ticket to the dance. Lost in the first round of Miami, I believe it was, the Hurricane in Nashville. I was at that game. So, Nashville, Tennessee. So, there's always that. I'm not going to try to pump that like that's something that's realistic, but you remind folks that, all right, at large is over. Here's a path. It's not going to happen, but boy, it would be great. But again, going back to Brazil, I don't think we see him again. But maybe if we do, I think he's taking it. I think he's risking something. I think he is, because I don't think in 6 games there's enough that he can do with this team to enhance anything whatever his status is right now with teams. I don't think he can do much to move on big boards. Arkansas's bad. There's not a lot of cohesion in the way Arkansas plays. It's so sporadic. I just don't think there's enough needle moving to help him by coming back. I think it hurts him. I think he's risking further injury. I think he's risking looking bad some more, because he didn't look great after tweaking that ankle against Furman. He'd had some really good games leading up to that, including 19-11, 2 blocks again in that home win over Duke. So I don't think we see him again if he's doing it right. And I don't think Arkansas will fully. I mean, look, I can tell you this. I know this for a fact. The Mississippi State coaching staff, starting on Monday, before Arkansas even played Tennessee, they were trying to figure out when's Brazil coming back. They were really pursuing that information. Well, he'd been out. I mean, if logically speaking, he's probably not coming back. But it'd only been 4 games at that point. Maybe now it's becoming more clear that he won't. I don't think he will. No one's told me that or confirmed that. That's just my take on it. But this Mississippi State staff was dying to know what's going on with Brazil. And this was, again, Arkansas it was still a day away or so from playing Tennessee. So, he's the kind of guy that, despite how rough it's been for him in many games, he can be a matchup problem, as weird as that sounds. As bad as he is sometimes defensively, Matador, there are still things that he does that you have to game plan a lot differently for. I'm not calling him a unicorn. I'm not going to do that. I know maybe we threw that around once or twice last year with some of the crazy stuff he did, but he does change how you have to prepare. All right, so Arkansas now, moving on to Texas A&M. We're talking about the future, talking about maybe potential guys that are coming in. Obviously, there are names in the guys that have already indicated they're going to the portal. When coaches move around, guys are going to get in the portal. Some will follow their coach. Some will look for other things. There will be players from teams that you're like, why are they leaving that team? The opportunity, the team, the exposure. Some guys are going to leave because they're going to get better NIL money. It's just going to be why they leave. That's why, as each year goes by, with NIL still being fairly new, and states and programs trying to tweak how they address it and how they approach it, it's going to become more and more of a factor, and it's going to be more about pay for play than other stuff. It just is going to. There are going to be things where you don't scratch your head for very long. Go, why did that happen? It's probably because of NIL if it doesn't make sense for other reasons. All right. And so Arkansas is going to be impacted by that. That's why it's important for Arkansas to be solid in what it's doing in the NIL game. An hour and 18 minutes. I'm going to probably break a record today. I'm having fun with it anyway. But the Arkansas Razorbacks against losers 71-67 on the road. I don't think anybody's surprised by the loss. I think folks are probably happy. If you're a Razorback fan, at minimum, we're into moral victories now, I guess. Arkansas was competitive and had a chance to win. And if you're going to watch them, you want to feel like you got a shot to win every game, despite where your season is right now. You want to feel like, and look, you're playing role of spoiler. Had Arkansas won that game, it's a quad 3 loss for Mississippi State. It damages that team's postseason resume. If you're one of those people that believes in, that likes vengeance, and if we can't be there, we don't want you there. You were cheering. Gave you more incentive to cheer for your Razorbacks today. Although they checked up short and Mississippi State took care of business. All right, so, I think the big key is, what does Musselman do? Again, if he's here, we know what he typically does, so we're going to see a lot of turnover. You've got 2 freshmen that for now are on the board to come in. Jalen Shelley, who was in, just the other night for Arkansas's home game against Tennessee, signed in November, 6'7", 6'8" combo forward. He's at Link Academy via Texas. Really a similar route to Jordan Walsh. They're similar size, similar position types. Walsh the superior talent, in my opinion. But Jalen Shelley, I mean, he's a worthy player, top 100 guy, top 75 in some services. He's a guy that Musselman doesn't necessarily always play freshmen, so we don't know. Isaiah Elohim, another guy that 18 months ago was a 5-star, top 10 guy. He's had injuries. He's dealt with injuries multiple times. 6'5" wing out of Sierra Canyon. He's back playing again. Had a nice game the other night. I think I retweeted his stats, over 20 plus points in a win. But he's a guy that's also signed top 50, top 75 guy, 4-star. He's a guy that has some offensive skill. When you look at, he's physical. He can play. He can go left and right. He doesn't mind contact. He's got a nice mid-range game. Obviously things don't necessarily translate as you move to a high major level from high school for everybody, but if it does for him, I could see him being a guy that factors in for a freshman under Muss. Because you look at guys that are similar size and have some craft on offense, but got those frames where maybe they can be physical defensively, and then on offense, be gritty and tough and be physical. Moses Moody had a nice frame. Mason Jones, even though he wasn't a freshman, you look at that 6'5", 6'6". If guys can play in that size range and be versatile defensively, they get minutes under Muss. Even the freshmen do. Really, the only exception of a guy 6'6" in that wheelhouse that doesn't play is Joseph Pinion, but he's not, he's not the most physical guy. He's defensively, there's some stuff there. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. I'm just saying he's the outlier effectively for freshmen coming in, that are in that size range and can do multiple things and maybe defend multiple positions. So Shelley, Elohim, would they play as freshmen? I don't know. Under Musselman, I went through 4 or 5 names on the team currently that could be back. In terms of they have eligibility and they're on the team now, doesn't mean I think they're coming back. But it's debatable on whether you think they're worthy to bring back. I think they are. Devo's situation has been so bizarre to me. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know how that's a help, but maybe it would be. Tremont Marks, a guy, I think if you could get him back and he doesn't try to go pro, you try to get him back probably, and build on something. Get some pieces around him that make more sense toward how he plays, or helps Arkansas despite some of the stuff that he does offensively that bogs down the ball movement. I don't know. There's ways to figure that out. Again, I bring up Layden Blocker. What happens with Bay Fall? Keon Minifield Jr. I mentioned the 2 freshmen. This portal, to me, is, again, I'll repeat it, it's the biggest thing out there for Arkansas once again. If you look at Musselman's recruiting, even when he had the 6-player freshman class, he still had 5 guys out of the portal. They turned 11 over that year, brought 2 back, and still found a way to get to the Sweet 16. But they had an awful run in league play. Don't forget that, 8-10, pretty bad, 10th place. So what does Arkansas need? What does Arkansas do out of that portal? I think your front line must be addressed. That's obvious. It's got to be addressed. Again, you're not getting Brazil back. Mitchell's gone. Graham's gone. Lawson's gone. We don't know with Bay Fall, but I don't know that even as raw as he is, how much he in year 2 would really be able to deliver. He's got to gain weight, man. He's got to gain weight. He's got to get, his hands aren't great with the ball. They got to figure out how to use him and make the most of him. He's a guy that will get on the glass. If you leave him out there, he's going to get some rebounds. So, but you're going to have to hit the portal for front line. That's going to have to be a main. I mean, I think you need 2 to 3 bigs out of that portal, unless you're just going to play a lot of small ball. Then maybe you can afford to get away with 2. But I think Arkansas is going to need 3. And again, depending on how many guys come back, you're really, to me, trying to find guys that can play, defend multiple positions in that 6'5" to 6'7" range, and bring some versatility, some slashing, some athleticism, some toughness. I think you're going to have to find guys that come from winning pedigrees. I think you really try to piece together. You got to be careful with that. You can't just look at where the team's records were, where they're coming from, because the players still have to make sense that you're putting on the floor together. I think Arkansas had a lot of misevaluation this time. What does Eric Musselman do with his staff? If Eric Musselman stays, I think we're still going to see departures. And some of that's kind of been out there, floating around out there. Some of it's been talked about. I think one is that's on the staff is I'd say going to be gone whether Musselman's here or not. Then he's got guys that have been with him for a while. So what does he do? Does he have any shakeups with his staff outside of who I think, departures that are going to happen no matter what? If he stays, again, that's if he's here. I still lean to that he's probably not going to be here. I think especially if Arkansas can finish well enough and be competitive, and it doesn't look like the whole program devolved into a shit show. I think that helps him land at some, have opportunities to more than one that he would be happy leaving for. I think he's wanted to leave. I've reported that I've heard it since before the season started. And I think if there's opportunities out there that he likes, that he will. But if he's back, we've been talking about some of that. If you go get a new coach, who are we looking at out there? A lot of people like Chris Beard as a coach. A lot, and I think he could be a guy that'd be coveted. Yes, Ole Miss, I mean, they started strong, but he's the kind of guy that does, he's proven everywhere he's been that he can coach. There's no question about that. He's got the baggage of what happened off the court. How bad is that really? That's up to for interpretation. People see things differently. I don't know. I don't like to sit here and preach on who's wrong and who's right. But he's back in the high major level. He's at Ole Miss in year one and done a good job there, I think. Now they've, I mean, they're not doing as well now as they were, but I still think he's the kind of guy that will be coveted. If Arkansas has a coaching opening, I've heard that Arkansas, where's all the money coming from? NIL is a problem moving forward. What about, how do you manage coaches' salary? Arkansas is the level of basketball program where they're going to have to find a way to make that work. Easy for me to say because I'm not writing any checks, but they're going to have to find a way to make NIL work. Obviously, that doesn't come from the university, but the school's going to have to figure out a way for things to come together and work especially if they've got a coaching change. NIL's got to be right whether Musselman stays or not, and it's going to have to get better. Regression showed by Devo is incredible this year. Yeah, it's been a bad year for him. It has. It's been a bad year. He did reach a milestone. Devo did. He's in he and Todd Day, the only two, at least 1,000 career points. We know Todd Day's the all-time career scoring leader at Arkansas at over 2,000, just ahead of Sidney Moncrief. The only two players, by the way, over 2,000 points in a career. And then Devo's got the 500 rebounds, and then he had 4 assists against Tennessee, which got him to 300 assists in a career. So the 1,500, 300 club, it's only Todd Day and Devo Davis. So aside from what he's meant to Arkansas through some of their best wins, regular season and especially postseason, as good as he's been in back-to-back Elite Eights and a Sweet 16, I mean, all that matters. To me, all that matters much more than this other stuff. It just does. And now he's in this elite stat club, with Todd Day. It helps, he's not just a passerby. He's not been riding coattails on Arkansas's success under Musselman. He's been a driving force in it. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. That should always be front and center. Other stuff has been disappointing at times, how he's handled things or the perception of how he's handled things. We can see in every season, no matter how good he is when Arkansas really needs it, there are other times where he has slumps, poor decision making, whether it was turnovers or ill-advised shots or breakdowns in crucial situations, but he's also made big plays. So that's been hot and cold. I'd say mostly good. Again, the results are proof of that. But looking back on the arc of it, Devo Davis is one of the best players in the program history. When you really look at his impact in postseason, combined with, you're not going to look at him statistically, even though he's joined this club with Todd Day, and say he was an elite scorer or had the talent of some guys, or you're not going to say that. But when you combine what he's done in postseason, what Arkansas did in postseason, and him having a huge hands in that too, when you add up all of it, he's one of the best players in program history. I'm not gonna, if I'm not gonna, give you a number, but it's memorable. It's worth saying that. It's not, that's not a false statement. The other stuff people can decide on their own if it affects his legacy. I don't think it does. Barring something really bad happening, I don't think it impacts his legacy. We're almost an hour and a half in. I mentioned Chris Beard, another guy that was in the SEC. Man, I've gone blank on this. I guess I've talked myself 90 minutes in to going blank. The LSU coach, what was his name? He's at McNeese. I've just gone blank on it. I don't know how I forgot this. Strong ass offer. Anyway, He's a hot name right now. He's done a good job. He's a good defensive coach. Um, Man, I've just gone blank on his name. It's at the tip of my tongue. I'm looking at him. I can see him. But he's a guy that, I've heard that if Arkansas did have a coaching opening, would be interested. He was a controversial guy at LSU. They underperformed. It was always the thing before NIL. He paid for players. And now with NIL, they're paying players. Uh, LSU, in my opinion, historically has recruited better than Arkansas, and they've never won anything down there in basketball. They've never done much. And so they've they've had players when you add it all up, that are, probably had more 5 stars and more guys that have had bigger names in their time in the NBA. When you look at some of it, I mean, Pistol Pete and Shaq, are up there. Arkansas's had a lot of success as a program, but LSU's been able to recruit. And so just because he didn't do well there, he did well there recruiting, but not as a coach. When you look at postseason, no one ever has there. Would it be different at Arkansas? God, I can't believe I've gone blank on dude's name, that got run out of there they hung on to him for a while. Remember when the recordings came out initially, when they got in trouble and the NCAA was looking at it, they were trying to get him to leave and he got his lawyer involved and it was sort of a stalemate. He didn't leave and he ended up staying for a moment, for a year or two more. But when you look around college basketball, there's a lot of good young coaches. The South Carolina head coach is doing a great job this year. Arkansas's gotten bitten in the past by having a coach have one great season. When you looked at Stan Heath and what he did out of that Tom Izzo coaching tree at Michigan State, went to Kent State and led that team. A very senior laden team. Antonio Gates, future Pro Football Hall of Famer, tight end. He was a very good basketball player, but good pieces on that team. And I think he came in, it was one of those things where he maybe tried to change some things, and the players got their way on that, but they played their way, and he was able to coach them and did a good job. Got to an Elite Eight, and Arkansas hired him after Nolan was fired and brought him in, and we saw what happened there. So you got to be careful with guys that are just showing wild recent success, but that doesn't mean you can't you can't hit a home run with that. But there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and I think Arkansas, where the strength of the program is now, despite a bad season, I think Arkansas again then we'll be looking at, well, how about NIL? Where are we with that? How much are we willing to spend to get a new coach? I think Arkansas at this point's got to go after big names. Um, I just do. I think they've got to go after guys that are highly coveted, because if you're not gonna play poker, like you're one of the top programs in college basketball, then you're not trying to be that. And again, it's easy for me to say because I don't write checks, but I think that's important. And so I look for Arkansas to be competitive if it comes to that. I know there's 6 games left, and people say, well, it's kind of cheap doing this now. Is it? I mean, Arkansas's not playing for March. They're not playing for postseason. They're playing for respectability at this point. If you buy that finishing with above 500 overall and being competitive is respectability, I buy it, because Arkansas has again shown the possibilities of just completely caving in. And some of this stuff has been a bad look at times with some of the things that have happened and some of the rumors and stuff like that. And some of that's died down. You've gotten Devo back. The Brazil thing is not about issues off the court. It really looks more like about a guy trying to get ready for the draft. And look, if this guy gets drafted, it helps Arkansas's image, because it'd be another season out of many when Arkansas right now got 12 guys in the NBA. 3 or 4 of those on two-way deals, but they get run in the NBA. Mason Jones is the latest to be back on a two-way deal. He'll get some run in the NBA this year unless they release him for some reason. After the All-Star break this weekend, usually used to that was middle of the season and it was about half and half of the games left. Really, you're under 30 games left, so Mason Jones is going to get some opportunities somewhere down the line in Sacramento to see the floor. But you want to have another guy go in the draft, even in a bad year like this. It still shows some level of strength for your program, and I think it makes sense for Brazil to stay away now. But we'll see what he does. I don't know that he's not coming back. I just think that's probably the most logical thing to do. But having said that, I do think Arkansas, um, holding on to the rope right now is important for those reasons. You don't want the appearance of major dumpster fire in Fayetteville. And when you start seeing 20 plus point losses, a lot of them, and historical losses, and some of the rumors and players in and out, and body language, and some of the stuff that we have seen, you're teetering on how much worse can this get? Because it's kind of, well, today was another example of, well, it's not as, sometimes things aren't as bad as they look. Sometimes they're worse than they look. Sometimes they're somewhere in between. But games like today give you some hope that that it's not just a complete shit show behind doors. And I think, players are still playing for their coach or for themselves. However you want to frame it, there is still some pride in here. Arkansas loses by 20 plus in the next game, we'll start questioning that again. We will. That's how bad and dysfunctional this team is on the court. It's just a bad group that way. But maybe all the stuff we've heard off the court, to me, if it was as bad as it all sounded, we're probably looking at, even a worse record right now than 3-9, and we're probably looking, at more problems that are just glaring going on off the court. Who knows? Maybe there's more of that to come, and it just hasn't completely fallen out yet. But for a day, and recent games, not counting Tennessee and LSU, but you can throw in Georgia and Missouri and even Kentucky. I mean, you can throw some of these games. This is the fourth game now in the last 6 where Arkansas's either won or been in it with a chance to win, and a couple of blowouts in there. If you looked at the 1-6 start, they were just almost all blowouts, except for the one win. I think the rest of them were blowouts, or the 10-point loss at Georgia. If you don't want to call it a blowout, it was still a double-digit loss. So as bad as things have looked, they've actually trended slightly. It's hard to say it, admit it with a straight face, but they've trended slightly a little bit better. You need that for your program, whether most days or not. That's it. So you don't want to look like a place that's, coaches are looking around. And NIL, again, I'm going to say it again. You're going to have to be strong there, but you've also need to be strong in the perception of your program, and that you don't want to be backsliding into one of these dumpster fire situations. And I think Arkansas, by having games like today, helps avoid that. All right, so we're an hour and 40 minutes in. I've talked a lot. I think this is the longest I've ever gone on one of these. Then this was an in-game / post-game. I want to join it. Thank everybody for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. Post-game, I'm a stream of conscious. I don't have, co-hosts or things where we can take turns talking different perspectives. I take a breath here and there. And so I kind of ramble and stream of consciousness, word vomit, whatever. But I do try to cover a lot of things and try to make some sense. I didn't get to look at the final stats, but we talked about, physicality and some other things, where Arkansas really gave itself a chance today. So still a loss. Again, final score 71-67. Mississippi State wins on its home court. Arkansas now, again, below water for the first time ever under Eric Musselman, 12-13. When you look at the overall record, we know the conference record now at 3-9. If the next loss with 6 more to go guarantees Arkansas' second consecutive season of having a losing record in league play. And we know Arkansas does not have any March Madness in its future, barring a run through the SEC tournament. Very unlikely. Probably 5 wins in 5 days, maybe only 4-4. Either way, it's not likely, but that would be an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. Barring that, we're going to have more and more of these conversations about looking at players and coaches. I'm still blank on the coach that left LSU. I can't believe that. I don't know why I can't just spit it out, but that's what's happened to me. It's frustrating me. All right, signing off again. Thank you, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live in-game and post-game today. Until next time, see you then.